Okay, so this is for Module 2. I recommend you always get my notes from my Google Docs, which is, the link is there. Again, remember that it's always above the course calendar. So if you go to your course, the live office hours will always be listed here. So whenever the next one is, it'll be up to date. So it's going to be every Monday. Here's my WebEx room. This is where you can reach my room. And you can grab the PDF files or Excel files, whatever the notes I give you from this link here. Just click on it. It'll open up my Google Docs folder, and you just look for MAT1402. And when I'm done with the recording, I'll post it here in announcements. So here's the link from last week. So there will be a link for every week, so you can watch this at your convenience. So for this week, we're talking about probability. So what is the probability? Well, it's a little bit, you're going to be doing a little bit of reading, but it's essentially saying what's the chance something's happening. So for example, if I ask you to flip a coin, what's the chance it's going to be on heads? Well, you tell me it's 1 out of 2. You say it's 1 out of 2 because the possibility, the only possibility it's going to be is heads, is that could be only one chance of that happening out of 2 sides, so it's 1 out of 2. Okay, so that's the logic. Definition, so event is any subset of the sample space, so that basically it's what something happened. You describe that by saying that's an event. So for example, flipping a coin and getting heads, that's an event. Okay. So how do you describe that on the paper? Like if I ask you to write that out, how do you do that? Well, for example, let's say I ask you, give me all the possible events where you roll a 7. If you have 2 dice, if you have paired dice, give me all the possible events where you roll a 7. Well, you say it's 1 and 5, or 1 and 6, 2 and 5, 3 and 4, all the way down to 6 and 1. So there's an event, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you group them together, it's called a set. You describe that with using parentheses. Okay. We are dealing with the simple events, and sometimes the event cannot happen. It's not possible. So, for example, you roll. Give me an event where you roll a 13. Well, that's not possible because each dice goes up to 6. So that's called an empty set. So you describe that by writing open parentheses, close parentheses, so the curly kinds. So that's an empty set, which also describes an impossible event. So say extending the question to flipping the coins 3 times, then you see something like this: H, 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 heads, 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 tails, all the way down to T, T, T. Okay. If you can continue this on, and then if you write them out, all the possible outcomes, they're going to be 256 of them. So this is called a subset. It's a subset of all possible events, which is going to be 256 cases. So here's one subset. Okay. To describe this in the table, here's an example. So if I ask you to show me a set where you toss 2 or more heads, and then you give me in the set HHT, HTH, THH, or HHH. If I ask you to describe to me or write it down an event where you toss heads 2 or more, twice or more, the only possible way that you can do that is HHH. So here's a single one. Okay, so You should study this to make sure you understand what's on the left side matches the right side. Okay, so a little more reading. So probability is about a chance. So we assign a certain number, a value to the probability. So what's the chance of something happening? It is going to be between 0 and 1 or 0 and 100. And we describe that by writing PR, some kind of event assigned to a certain number. Okay, so for example, before I get there, two things about the probability values. It can only be between 0 and then 1 or 0 to 100. And if you add them all up, they cannot be more than 1. Okay? They have to add up to, if you add up all possibilities, they have to add up to 1, but not more than 1. So here's an example. Let's say these are the events. The Russian female is assigned a letter A, the event Croatian male is assigned B, and so on and so forth till E. American female is assigned E. So here's a set. And historically, let's say we know that probability of A happening is 0.08. So somebody assigned these numbers. So how do you go from 0.08? So the probability could be described as either a decimal or percentage. So 0.08 is considered to be 8%. Okay. So for those of you who don't know how to go between decimal and then the percentages, that you just multiply the decimal by 100 to get to percentage. Or if you do 8% divided by 100, you get the decimal. Okay. So you should know how to do that. Okay. The thing about the probability is that if they're simple events, they can be added. It's additive. So if you know the probability of E happening and probability of F happening, you can add the two. If you have 3 events you want to add, you can add them all together. Okay. Lastly, the probability that American male will win the tournament is 0. Well, it's an empty set because that's not a possible. We don't have that. Okay. So I'll have you read the rest. Okay. And I'm going to come back to this slide here by showing you the assignment. So this question 1 comes from assignment 1. So I covered this last week, so you should take a look at the last week's slides. I talk about this at the very end of the slide. So permutation and combination, I talk about that from last week. So if you have any questions, email me and I'll point you to the right direction. But it's in the last assignment, or it's in the last week's slides. I'm going to be doing 2, 3, and 4 in more detail. Okay. So deck of cards, each card could be described as having value A, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. J, Q, K. J is Jack, 11. Q is Queen, 12. K is King, and then that's 13. And then suit, H stands for hearts, C for clubs, D for diamonds, and S for spades. Okay, so if I say, what's KH? Well, that's King of Hearts. Okay. I'm going to describe each card by writing 2 capital letters. Okay. Write out the event described by each of the following as a set. So, for example, from my shuffled deck of cards, I pull out a card. What's the chance, or what does it look like if it's a king? Well, king could be either hearts, clubs, etc. So you just have to fill out the rest. Okay. Same thing for the club. Well, club could be ace of club, 2 of C, oops, 3 of C, and then on and on. So you just have to finish that out. Okay. Well, that's what you have to do for 2, A, B, and C. So now you have to figure out 3 is the probability of each happening. So let's say the answer to question 2A was KH and KC. Question now is, what's the chance of King of Hearts? Well, if you count King of Hearts on deck of cards, there's only one, so it's 1 out of 52 is the possibility. Same logic for King of Heart or King of Clubs. There's only one of King of Clubs, so that's 1 out of 52. Oops. So then find the probability. Well, you just add them up together. 1 out of 52 plus 1 out of 52, which is 2 out of 52. If you simplify, it's 1 out of 26. So you can leave your answer as a fraction or decimal points. It's probably easier to do in fractions, but I accept either answer. So if you do in the fraction, though, you have to simplify it. Okay. So do the same thing for B and C. So the last part is finding the probability of each of the following events. Well, this is a combination of question 2 and 3 in steps. Okay, so let me do 4A, for example. So the coin comes up. So if you toss the coin 3 times, what's the chance that each event happens? So my probability of, say, E1 in this case, I should probably do the same thing here. Probability of E1, oops. So this would be the final answer for that one. You do the same for B and C. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. So the coin comes exactly twice. Well, if you look at the slides, here's the first one. Toss 2 or more heads. So in this case, I'm looking for exactly 2 heads. So that's 1, that's 1, and that's 1, and that's not it. So for each one of them, it's 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4 here. Okay, so I know for each event, the probability is 1 out of 8. So it could happen HHT, HHT, HTH, or THH. And I know each chance is 1 out of 8, 1 out of 8, and 1 out of 8. You just add them up, 180 plus, oops. Okay. So this is the final answer, correct answer for number 4A. This is not the correct answer here, but then you just have to kind of fix this. And so now you can do B, C, and E, or B, C, and D, using your logic or using the slides here. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. But then you just have to write out the possibilities, what's the chance of each happening, and just add them all up, if there are more than one. Okay. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll write you back. And then I'll see you on Monday, the 19th at 5:30 Central Time.